Winter Roses, Autumn, by Fairytalelovr. Chapter 26. Daenerys threw up the poor excuse of supper she had been served last night. Retching and heaving, her insides twisting. The waters were choppy, what was definitely not agreeing with her stomach, and the food was terrible and far too spiced, so the change in diet was certainly making her feel even worse. The door burst open and she groaned. Every visit from her captor was more infuriating than the last. He was rude and cringeworthy, on top of being the man who took her from her home. He dragged a young woman wearing rags inside, and she immediately went to her knees, where he had pushed her. Daenerys couldn't help but notice her olive skin. Something beyond rare in Westeros, and the beauty hidden beneath the fear on her face. "This whore is a translator," Mero said in a grumble, when he switched to low Valyrian. "Whore, you know what to tell her. So do it, and I don't have to waste my time speaking their snobbish language. And clean her up. I'll send someone to get you later." Daenerys watched him leave, still pretending not to understand a word. There was no reason a Westerosi lady should speak Valyrian, and it was reasonable to believe she would have been kept from her heritage. So, once she realised she had been captured, Dany decided to pretend she didn't understand them. It should buy her time until they reached her destination, and, also, lower their guard. If they thought she didn't speak the language, and therefore couldn't communicate, there would be no need to worry she would talk to merchants while in port. Not that they had stopped anywhere yet. "What is your name?" she asked softly. "This one's name is Missandei," the woman answered, still with her head low. "May I assist you, Your Grace?" Dany sat on the floor, confident the nausea had passed, or at least that there was nothing left in her stomach. "Why do they call me princess? I've been stripped of my title. And please, look up when you speak." Missandei risked a glance upward, but quickly lowered her head. "I have not been told that, Your Grace. I was told you are a princess, and I must care for you." "Where are we going?" Dany asked, deciding that pressing the issue would accomplish nothing. "What happened? I don't know what I saw. The castle, the fog." "The black castle went up in flames," Missandei said, still looking down, but extending her hand to pull Daenerys up. "No," she said. "I don't believe you." That can't be, she thought. The Midnight Fortress was built and rebuilt to withstand much more than a band of pirates. "Captain Miro had his men infiltrate the guard, Your Grace. They set bombs from UT and set the fire to the castle." "I saw the fire," Missandei said. "So did I," Dany thought, "but I won't believe it." "The last men to come aboard said," the slave continued. "What about my family? My lord husband and my children?" "I am sorry, Your Grace." Missandei kneeled down in supplication. "Forgive me for being the bearer of bad news. But they said they were dead. Lord Starling, the other lords and ladies, and the children from the family wing. Only a young woman escaped on a horse." "Arya," Dany thought. "At least Arya is—" "No, they are all alive. It is a lie. Where are we going?" "I do not know, Your Grace." Missandei finally succeeded in taking Dany from the floor and guiding her to a vanity to the side. "I am a slave. I was not told." "Slave?" Dany was outraged. But that's absurd." "They give me shelter and food, Your Grace. What is more than I deserve." Dany caught her wrist and turned her on the bench, forcing Missandei to look her in the eye. "It is not. You are a person, not a possession." "I am a valuable slave, Your Grace. I speak several languages, and I am a trained scribe, so they mostly leave me alone. I have good food and a decent cot. It's too expensive to train girls like me for them to simply waste me." "Not being raped every day is not a blessing," Dany insisted. "Slavery is the way of the world. Doesn't mean that it's right. And it might be the way of the world in Essos. Not in Westeros. Slavery is death in Westeros, Dany bit out. As it should be, she thought. She remembered, many years ago, there had been word that the Lord of Bear Island had been selling slaves. Father had been furious and had left to deal with the man. He had sat all of the children and explained why it was wrong. Dany had seldom seen Ned Stark so riled up about something. What was only to prove the point of how wrong the practice was. Her blood was pumping hot and furious through her veins, and, as the ship went against a particularly strong wave, the rattling sound drew her attention to the box pushed near her cot. She stood up and lifted the lid, admiring her precious eggs. As always, the black one drew her in, and she touched it. Perhaps it was wishful thinking. Perhaps it was her fury. But it seemed warmer than ever. Captain Merrow said he took the treasures because they were part of a deal. Missandei whispered, "The princess and all 3 eggs. Those were his orders." Dany smiled. "They don't know there are more." Lyanna had made a beautiful nest for Blue inside of the dollhouse, though all 3 children slept hugging their eggs. Aemon even went as far as curling up like a ball around his golden one. And the other eggs found in the volcano were kept inside the vaults, safe from prying eyes. But Dany had never been able to let these 3 out of her bedchamber. She turned back to Missandei, wondering if she could trust this poor slave girl to tend to her. Promising to free her would be complicated, as Dany still had no idea where she was being taken, though her suspicions of Essos were growing ever stronger. And she had no men and no money with her. She had to keep watching Missandei, learning her character. And then, once Dany knew more, she could try and do something very stupid, like a mutiny. Arya snuck through the narrow corridors to the forge in the back, using the fact it was time for supper and there was no one around. As she did every night, she waited until Gendry put down his hammer and pulled him around into a kiss. "You need to stop doing this," he complained, though his arms closed around her. "Really?" she chuckled. "Because you're kissing me back." He groaned, as he did every time, but surrendered. Each night their kisses grew bolder and deeper, what always brought a thrill to her. Taking a chance, she waited until they parted, out of breath, and kissed down his throat. Gendry groaned even deeper, his fingers at her hips tightening as he struggled for control. "Arya, you have to stop. You have to go." "Why?" she whispered. She had always known he had a great physique, all the way back to their first meeting. But in her last visit, she had been haunted by his form, and then all that she liked in him as a friend seemed to grow and develop into a different kind of liking. Hearing the girls in court speak of their conquests had only made her more curious. That morning in the forge, before the bells sounded, she had been hit over the head with the fact that friendship and bantering were not enough anymore. She moaned unhappily when Gendry pulled her away, holding her at arm's length. Though by the way he was clinging to her, he very obviously did not want to let her go. "We've talked about this, Arya. You're a lady, a highborn." She was feeling powerful, strong. His lips were red and swollen, and his blue eyes were shining in a way that sent shivers down her spine. "And I've told you that I don't care," she said, stepping forward and gluing her front to his, nipping her way up his neck to his earlobe. "You don't fully care either." "I know that." Gendry moaned, his resistance failing him completely. "I'm a man, Arya. I'm no noble lord. Stop tempting me." "Never," she whispered into his ear, biting down on his earlobe. That sent him wild, forcing her to walk backwards the few steps to his work table and push her against it. Gendry kissed her wildly. "Anywho, moving on." Merrow climbed back up onto the main deck of the ship, seeing Tyrosh come closer on the horizon. It was nearing sunset, but, at this rate, they would be there tomorrow by dawn. "Scout ship just came back," Dario said, playing with an apple. "We got company." He pointed in the direction of the city and Mero saw outlines of a fleet. Westerosi? Royals and red wine, whoever they are. If they're already here. I guess the whore was right and the damned wolf sounded the alarm. Wolves as warning bells. That's a new one. The captain snorted. Those red ones. Who are they? It seems they sell wine and happened to be in town as the royal fleet was leaving, so they tagged along. Dario shrugged. Numbers, Dario. Give me numbers. Mero grumbled, looking through the spyglass. Not sure. They may have kept a few of them hidden by on the shoreline, but so far 10 royal warships, fully manned, plus 4 merchant carracks and 6 warships from the Red Wines. Also fully manned to protect the cargo from pirates, I imagine. Meaning a long fight. Mero was unhappy. 20 bloody ships. 16 of them bigger than ours. Well, I'd go with 16 ships and 4 useless anchors to be in the way. We don't have any warships, only 10 carracks, but they are fully manned with good fighters. Not the soft lords these Westerosi prefer. Our men might be better, but they have the numbers, Mero said. Besides, we looted their salt ponds. In a fight, we could lose a lot of money if they sink any of our ships, and I happen to like gold. And there is the fact that if we keep this ship back, if they know we looted their salt and they find it in any of our ships, they'll know for sure the princess is in one of them, and it's going to be a hell of a bigger fight. Dario pointed out. Can we go around, Tyrosh? If you want a riled up crew, sure, Dario shrugged. We've been rationing for a while, and now we're down to salted beef and candied fruit. And very little of it. We ran out of fresh water for the crew earlier today, and even ours and the princess's is only lasting until tomorrow. Or, at best, the day after. We can't make it to Lys. And if they are spread out, we can't even stop in the way. The lieutenant summed up, and the captain grimaced. I thought of something. Mero snorted. How many people do you want to get killed this time? Dario only rolled his eyes. He was a bit impulsive. So what? I know Tyrosh, and these fools don't. I know which merchants to trust and which people to bribe at the harbour. We spread the news we're traders from Pentos, and with the harbour bribed in our favour, we say we're regular traders, passing by every few moons. We avoid suspicion, and then we're going to get cargo from Karth, and we see where it takes us. You stay back in this ship as far away as we can manage without raising suspicion, and send the others as close as we can get, and then we'll load them up with as much as we can get. Afterwards, the boats can transfer cargo from other ships to this one. This way, we can get enough to go as far as Lys. That sounds good, but I wanted to go from here straight to Volantis, Mero complained. If we're merchants from Pentos, there's no way we'd get as many supplies as we need to buy in order to get as far as Volantis. Dario said, best to lose a few days to stop at Lys and then risk something here. Besides, we've got an advantage here. Scouts in the rear guard say they're not in sight, which means we're at least 2 days ahead of them. And if they left in a hurry, they'll have stopped already or will need to stop in Lys to resupply. So we can afford to stop there. Besides, a night in Lys might do very well for the crew. Dario finished with a grin. They're starting to be jealous that there's only one whore aboard. Mero laughed. All right, I agree. And see if you can get something for a weak stomach. Are you going soft now, Captain? Dario jested. Say that again and I'll show you my blade, Mero said. That princess is fucking throwing up everything she eats. Last thing I need is to have her sick or even die and lose our payment. I'd rather gag her or put her to sleep until we make it there, but I have to appreciate that her royal ass is going to make us very rich. Fine, I'll handle it, Dario said. Even more reason to keep the crew happy. If the men decided the women aboard should be shared, if the princess won't be spared and then there went their gold, he thought. She believe you about the castle. Damn bitch doesn't speak Valyrian, Mero said, but they'll be very happy about that. I told the slave to tell her. Mero, she wasn't completely awake when we were pushing off. What if the hallucinogen potion didn't work? We got the crew to believe they were seeing the castle on fire, but if she doesn't... Don't mind that, you bitch, the captain muttered. If she doesn't believe us, her issue. If she wasn't awake, even better, because she didn't see that the castle didn't burn. Our orders were to kill them if we could, or tell her we did. What happens now is their problem. Dario only nodded and left his place, biting into the apple. Rob was pacing in his solar, his anxiety driving him crazy. Notwithstanding the ravens about Danny's kidnapping, Jon's leaving in pursuit, Arya stowing away to follow their brother, and the Lannisters returning to the capital, it had been at least 6 hours since Marjorie had gone into labour, and still no news from upstairs. 7 now, Theon said, turning the hourglass. This is ridiculous, Rob exclaimed. Why is it taking so long? He snorted. And why must she be stubborn and forbid me to be there? He grumbled. Because she's got 5 cousins with her inside that room, and before you say it, Danny was following Isla, who is Dornish, and the Dothraki handmaiden. It's different than a southern pompous lady. Or was your father allowed in when your mother was having your siblings? I know, you've said that before. Besides, it's your second child. You already knew she'd give you away. Theon, right now you are being the most unhelpful friend in the North. The Iron Man only laughed. Nearly half the sand in the hourglass came down before Maester Lewin came in. Another son, my lord. My congratulations. Rob smiled widely. And Lady Marjorie? Tired, but well. She said you may go up now. Happier than he'd been in a very long time. Rob took the stairs 2 at a time and walked into Marjorie's usually unused bedchamber. Her 5 Tyrell cousins curtsied and left quickly, and he went to sit by his wife as she held their son on the bed. The boy already had a mop of dark hair, though no other feature was recognisable now. I think he looks more like you than little Ned did, she said. What would you like to name him? Rob smiled, awed, touching the baby's face softly. He had thought about names long and hard, and, though he had a preference, he had only made the decision now, seeing his son's little face. John, Rob said. John Stark. He will come back, my love, Marjorie said softly. He will find Danny, and he will come back with her. I know, Rob said, certain, but we name our children after people we admire. And I admire my brother. Marjorie smiled and kissed his cheek, then looked at the baby. You'd better send ravens then, announcing little John Stark's birth. It's late, he nodded, at the moonlight coming through the window. I'll worry about that in the morning. He snuggled next to his wife, and they sat there, admiring their new son. Willis was waiting at the harbour when their boat docked. An odd mix of Tyrell, red wine, and even a couple of Stark guards with him. Lord Willis, John greeted as he stepped up to the wooden pier. I'm glad to see you well. Please, what are the news? It's good to see you as well, Lord Starling, though I wish we were under better circumstances. I have rented rooms in an inn nearby. If you would come with me? I suppose we should be more comfortable to speak there. Of course, John agreed. Davos, can you manage to get all the supplies we need? I know all the best merchants in town, my lord, Salador said. Don't worry, we're all set here. John nodded, and so he, Adam, Arya, Ghost and Nymeria followed Willis and his entourage a little way down the street to a decent-looking inn. The innkeeper acknowledged their entrance, but said nothing as Willis led the way up the rickety stairs to a room with 2 sofas. 2 of the guards crossed it and left through the other door, to stand outside it, while 2 more took the door they came in, and the others, presumably, were protecting the building. I have been in town for nearly a fortnight, my lord, Willis said, starting once they were all sitting down. The townsfolk have been of little help, other than the merchants who have been selling supplies. We noticed a few ships coming from the north, and heading south, and we noted each one. It came to my attention last night. One of my men was able to find out in a brothel that a group of ships, who claimed to be regular traders from Pentos, was actually not. I have reason to believe they're the ones we're looking for. Why? John asked, and Willis reached into his pocket. My men was able to find out from the whores what they used as payment. He took the items from his pocket and put them on the centre table, and John reached for them. A bag filled with copper stars and another with... John frowned. Copper stars are Westerosi coins, and I thought odd that they would pay in salt as well, but... Willis started. It's not odd at all, John said, angry. They left across the island from the main harbour, where we hold the salt ponds. It seems that, other than my wife, they decided to loot my stores as well. We know they're going east then, Willis said. According to the whore, they were picking up precious cargo from Carth. Gold for Lady Starling, no doubt, Arya said. And they'll sell the salt as well, Adam said. Possibly on the way, to pay for supplies or make room for them. We'll be lucky if they sell them, actually, Arya said with a smile. So I can spend money to buy my own goods? John asked, clenching his jaw. No, silly, Arya said, rolling her eyes. If they're selling the salt, they're leaving a trail for us to follow. Unless you'd rather we keep following them blindly, I think it's money well spent. Salt is common enough, John argued. It could come from anywhere. No, Arya has a point. Adam said, Salt is common. You're right. But anyone who has it to sell would look for a merchant to trade. Only men in a ship who stays overnight, or who only get overnight leave in the port, would pay whores with salt instead of going to a merchant and getting a better coin. If the money is better with the merchant, Arya started, but John cut in. Lord Willis, are you here with the Royal Fleet? What are my Lord Father's plans for it? Lord Stark and Lord Manderley said the ships are here in Tyrosh are at your disposal and under your command, Lord Starling. I came here because my cousin, Sir Hobber Redwine, was delivering wine in King's Landing on his way to Tyrosh, and agreed to join the Royal Fleet as far as here. I see, John said, biting his lower lip and taking a moment to think. My prey is not in Tyrosh, Lord Willis, so I will continue further east, and as my Lord Father so graciously allowed, I shall take the Royal Fleet with me. Should I assume Sir Hobber is the one in charge of the red wine ships here, then? Yes, my lord. He went into town, but he should return soon. John nodded. We've been at sea long enough, and our ships need at least overnight to be loaded, according to my captain. So I will make use of this inn. I took the liberty of securing all the rooms in the building. I thought it best. Good. You have my thanks. Adam, send word for Sorella to come here. I'm sure she'll enjoy a bath and a night ashore. Lord Willis, I'll freshen up, but I would like to be called the moment your cousin returns. Willis nodded, and the innkeeper was called to sort out the rooms and baths. John relished the chance to properly clean up, though he couldn't stand the tub for too long. It reminded him of Daenerys and the pool in their bathing chambers too much. And afterwards, he couldn't rest. At sea, he yearned for a night ashore in a bed that didn't swell with the movement of the waves. But here, it just unnerved him to be stationary while Dany was moving further away. In the end, he was unsettled and twitchy when Willis came to get him, saying his cousin was waiting in the sitting room. They exchanged greetings and the proper social courtesies, but John didn't wait too long to get down to business. Sir Hobber, Lord Willis told me that you were already on your way to Tyrosh, and have gracefully accepted to wait as long as we arrived. Now, though, I would like to ask if you would join our fleet to continue the search for Lady Starling. Oh, Hobber was clearly thrown off. You see, my lord, I have responsibilities. My Lord Father told me to deliver the wine, and that I have done. I understand that, my lord, but I am requesting the aid of House Redwine. It seems you are requesting our ships, Hobber said. Aye, my lord, I am, John said, growing irritable. The young man seemed rude, or just downright infuriating for no reason. Your ships, and by extension your aid in rescuing my lady wife. I am very sorry, Lord Starling, but I'm afraid I cannot. You see, this is a merchant, a trading voyage, not a rescue mission. Besides, I am not the one in charge of the ships, and so I cannot make any alliances. Then he snorted. But of course, he said under his breath. How could we expect a bastard to understand how hierarchy works? Hobber! Willis exclaimed, horrified. Arya bristled, her nostrils flaring, and it took a closed-faced Sir Davos to hold her back. Adam put his hand on his pommel, ready to answer the insult. But John, furious but stone-faced, also held him back. He took a step back, clenching his jaw, and turned to the window to regain his composure. Ghost took a few steps forward towards the rude lordling, but John called him back. A few moments of tense, disquiet silence overtook the room. "You are right, Sir Hopper," John finally said, turning from the window. His voice was cold and hard, but there was no cruelty in his tone. "House Starling is not allied with House Redwine. We have no more than a commercial relationship. Since you buy my jewels, and I buy your wine. However, and a lowly bastard like myself might be too stupid to understand this, I believe that a house owes its allegiance to their liege lords, and, as such, this allegiance extends to support allies of your liege lord. To my understanding, House Redwine is sworn to House Tyrell, which is in an alliance with House Stark, and as such, the North. And no less because the heir to House Tyrell is married to a daughter of another important northern house, the Manderleys. And, following that logic, your aid should extend to House Starling, since we are a northern house. But, as you said, House Starling has no alliance with House Redwine. You wouldn't be breaking any deals. And I do hate to state the obvious, my lord, but the North remembers. This is a great moment of need for House Starling, and we will remember our friends. We will also remember those who refused that friendship." Willis clenched his jaw to hide his smile. Of course, as a representative of House Tyrell, he was within his rights as a liege lord to commandeer this part of the royal fleet in Tyrosh and send Hopper to his cabin and be quiet, which he had already been intending to do from the start, though he had wanted to give Hopper a chance to help on his own. But Lord Starling had a point, and it was fun to see his cousin squirm after his inexcusable rudeness. He could take a moment to call for the ships. "My lord, this is not what I meant," Hopper began hesitantly. "Then what did you mean?" John asked. "I didn't mean to be offensive," Hopper stuttered, his face red and flushed. "Oh, you mean that the word bastard has any other meaning?" Adam asked, the hand on his pommel still not fully relaxed. "I merely meant, it's just not my place to make this decision, my lord. My father is Lord Redwine." "I know that," John said, coolly. "And there is no way to send him a message and ask his opinion in time to help me. You are not the Lord of the Arbor. You're not even the heir. However, your Lord Father gave you command and responsibility over these ships, and, as such, the decision lies with you. You can take your ships and return home, or you can join our armada. I will give you time to decide, but not much." He burst out of the room, and Adam and Arya followed quickly. "You'll give him time?" she asked. "This is my fight, as he said. He owes me nothing," John said in a tight voice. "Besides, I needed to get out of that room. I was dangerously close to his freckled nose." Sorella rushed up the rickety stairs from the busy tavern downstairs, making the others frown. She was wearing a silly dress, silk and lace and a plunging neckline, one she had probably gotten in Goldtown, because it didn't look like Kira's design, or Bravosi. "I have news," she said, a bit out of breath. "We already knew they were going east, but I got some information. They're going to Volantis, but they're going to stop in Lys first." "How did you know that?" John asked. "You don't need to know," Sorella said, waving it off. "I do if it means we're walking into a trap," he insisted, though Adam cringed. Northerners were not prepared for Dornish openness. "Fine," Sorella said with a huff. "Suit yourself. One of the harbour masters told me." "And why would he tell you?" "And why would he just tell you?" Arya asked. Sorella smiled. "He was good looking," she shrugged. "I thought I'd combine business and fun. Otherwise it'd involve blood, knives, and a bit more time. Also fun, but I was feeling like another kind of fun." What did his looks have to do with anything? John asked. All right, that's enough on the interrogation techniques. Adam tried. No, I want to know, Arya said. This is a particularly bad idea, Adam grumbled. Now I'm curious, John asked. Well, your regular weak-minded man doesn't usually realise or care what he's telling you when you're playing with his cock, she said, and John didn't disappoint, blushing furiously and even choking. Arya, on the other hand, seemed fascinated. He was a bit disappointing, I won't lie. Enough, Sorella, Adam said. Don't tell me you've forgotten your Dornish blood, sir. She gestured, stepping closer and attempting to run her hands up his front. But he caught her. Really? Nothing? We are not having this conversation, Adam said firmly. Thank you for the information. My pleasure, she said with a smirk. He snorted and stepped away, and then he and John caught Davos and went to the narrow corridor to John's room to plan out, and she burst out laughing. Arya was impressed. Were you just teasing them, or... Well, the tight corset certainly drew his attention, Sorella said, and I did feel like it. I was posing as a boy for too long. But no, I didn't. I got him drunk, battered my eyes, and then he sounded like one of those ridiculous singing canaries, singing out all that I wanted to know. Though, that is right. Men will say anything when you play the dumb wench and they think they're impressing you. Did you... Arya finally blushed. They say Dawn is more... open. Oh, girl, you have no idea. Sorella laughed. Can you teach me? I see, the Dornish chuckled. So you can try and seduce Gendry? Now Arya was blushing deeply. I'm not the best seductress out there, Arya. But I do suppose I know a bit more than a girl raised in a northern prudish family. For the record, I happen to think it would be a great loss. What would be a great loss? Gendry, of course. When your brother finds out and kills him. John wouldn't, Arya mumbled. There are rules, Arya. In Dawn, they are flexible, but not anywhere else. Besides, even in our big castles, there are some rules. Gendry is a lowborn. He is more than worthy, Arya complained. I'm not saying that. I like him. He's an honest man doing honest work. But that's just it. He is working. And I'm not talking like your father works for the king or anything like that. He has no family. He has no house. Westeros will massacre you if you choose him. He works for your brother. How can Jon allow his blacksmith to seduce his lady sister with no consequences? He would be the laugh of court. So you're saying that? I'm saying that this goes beyond you wanting a few kisses from a boy you like. And I don't judge you for it. But there will be consequences for that. Maybe you should just... Everyone knows I go horseback riding every day. Even when it's raining. So if I... No one will question a broken maidenhead if I have to marry a perfumed lord. Arya said, chin raised. Defiant. You... Oh. All right, and we are going there, Sorella said, getting a bit befuddled with the direction the conversation suddenly took. Or it seems you have gone there by yourself. She checked both sides of the narrow corridor. Come on, let's get into our room. Walls are thin, but it's better than nothing. Now, tell me, what do you know, other than how maidenheads are broken? Ella told me how babies are born, Arya said, and thankfully she didn't use silly metaphors like septum ordain. She certainly didn't say that even a kiss on the cheek could get me pregnant. Sorella fell on her bed laughing, so hard that tears fell down her face, and she wrapped her arms around her ribs. God! My sides hurt! She said once she had recovered. You gotta love scepters. I can't even remember last time I laughed this hard. She chuckled a bit more. It was just past dawn, and Jon, Adam, Arya, Sorella, Ghost, Nymeria, and Willis stood on the harbour, waiting for the last few boats to load the ships. Davos was very efficient in getting the men to load quickly, a skill, he said, that had to be essential in his smuggling days. After the uncomfortable situation on the day of their arrival, Sir Hobber apologised to Jon, declaring the red wine ships under his responsibility would join their fleet in search for Daenerys. And he was relinquishing command in favour of his cousin Willis, his acting liege lord. Jon got the impression that, even if the apology was genuine, the offer was more due to Willis's persuasion and perhaps even command than to Hobber's will. But he wasn't going to complain or investigate, so he only thanked him and said he was glad for the alliance between House Starling and House Redwine. Even if Arya wanted to challenge Hobber for a sparring session because of the insult, Jon thought that keeping things diplomatic would be best. He had enough to deal with to care for an ill-content spoiled lord. "I wish there was a way to tell father where we're going," Jon said, though it was just for show. Dusk had left the day before with a letter to Ella. "If only we could find one of Lord Varys's little birds," Willis said, and Jon smiled. He hadn't thought about that. "That shouldn't be too hard," Adam said, actually smiling. He wished he had had this idea last night. "Why?" Arya said. "It could be anyone." "Because, as you can see," Adam looked around, "we Westerosies stick out like sore thumbs here. And we happen to be speaking the common tongue, which is not so common here. So if we would like to send a message to King's Landing, to the King's Council for instance, all we would need to have is a few sweets, and I'm sure a certain hungry little bird will stop by to eat and learn a new song." A boy seemed to materialise from thin air, startling everybody. "You said someone would want to send him a song, my lord," the boy said. "Who are you?" "I'm Jon Starling," he said, stepping forward. "Can you send him a message?" "Next ship to King's Landing leaves in the morning," the boy said. "I can be there." Jon smiled. After so many weeks, he was finally having one good day. He knew where to look, and there was a way to send a message home that didn't involve his poor liar of a father pretending he had received no messages. As odd as it was, Jaime couldn't wait to return to Dragonstone. King's Landing felt odd and alien when he knew Myrcella and Tommen were all the way in the old Targaryen fortress, and he loathed to leave them alone, even if he knew he couldn't protect them against all of Stannis' men. But the deal between the Lord of Dragonstone and the King included yearly reports, and what a concerned father that showed Robert was. In truth, it was just for show, a ritual to pretend in front of the court, because it was his second year delivering said report, and he had yet to do so for the King. As had happened the year before, Jaime delivered Stannis' and Maester Cressen's reports to Varys, Renly and Ned Stark, thankfully being nowhere near Robert. He would leave tomorrow, so he had left the stuffy red keep to go into town. He had promised to bring his daughter a new doll. Now Jaime smiled. Myrcella hadn't been very forthcoming in the how she had found out, only shrugging and changing the subject. But he found he loved having a daughter, or at least having a daughter that knew him as a father and not an uncle. He was walking down the street of Silk, distracted on his way to the doll maker's, when he heard words that made a chill go down his spine. "Hiring more people?" One of the men walking just ahead of him said. "Why would the guild be hiring more people? They've been dwindling ever since the Mad King died." "And may he rot in the seven hells," the other man said with him. "But that's what I heard, old friend. The Guild of Alchemists have been hiring new people, and a whole lot of them. Whatever for? What can the new Fat King want from them? Dunno, but they're making something. That's what I heard. It took them all these years to teach more people, since their senior members were killed in the sack. But now they've got them all set, and they're hiring a bunch of people to do the gods knows what." The two men turned down another street, and Jaime followed down his path numbly. He had killed the senior members of the guild at the end of the rebellion. He had killed Aerys, then Rossart, then the following days had tracked down Gegrius and Bellis and killed them as well, in hopes of making sure the secret of the wildfire was lost. It seemed the recipe for the disastrous and deadly substance was written down somewhere after all, still capable of being taught to new acolytes. Jaime didn't fancy himself a hero, though he knew, and he was one of three, that King's Landing was only standing today because of the action the rest of Westeros reviled him for. And now it seemed his 20 years of torment might have been for naught. If the guild was producing wildfire, but who would order such a thing? He abandoned his quest for the doll. He was in no mood for that right now. He needed to think and vent, and quite possibly hit his head on a wall for not setting the guild hall on fire all those years ago. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed this one. I like this one. So much in one chapter, jeez. Danny doing the whole not speaking Valyrian trick thing. Nice. Yay, little Jon Stark. I love that's like named after someone he admires because he knows Jon's coming back. Willis is a quiet MVP. Love that. Hobber, want to punch him. And Sorella teaching Arya some womanly things? That's interesting. Poor Gendry's gonna have it up to his ears. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell to get notified for whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye, my guys, gals, and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.